Why do you spend hours staring at tiny brown bugs and silver minnows, trying to perfectly match the hatch, when a hot pink piece of plastic catches twice as many fish? Seriously, ask yourself that question. You have been told your entire life that fishing is all about imitating nature. You have been told that fish are highly intelligent critics of their food. But what if I told you that perfectly matching the hatch is exactly why you are not getting bites on tough days? In this video, we are going to tear down the most sacred rule in fishing. I am going to show you why bright, completely unnatural neon colors absolutely destroy natural baits in almost every situation. Get ready, because the truth about what actually triggers a massive fish to strike is going to make you want to throw half your tackle box in the trash. Have you ever caught a giant fish on a lure that looks like a neon clown? Let me know in the comments, because today we are proving exactly why that happens. This topic is absolutely crucial because fishermen waste thousands of dollars and endless hours chasing the illusion of perfection. For generations, grandpas and old-school purists have passed down the golden rule. They told us we must perfectly match the hatch. They told us that if the local bait fish is olive green with silver flakes, your lure must be exactly olive green with silver flakes. We bought into this idea because it sounds logical to the human brain. We naturally assume that a fish wants to eat something that looks exactly like its everyday food. So we obsess over realistic paint jobs, three-dimensional eyes, and perfectly molded fins. We stubbornly stick to dull, natural colors, even when the fish are completely ignoring us. But this old-school mentality ignores the harsh reality of the underwater environment, and it ignores the brutal, instinctual psychology of a predator fish. It is time to step out of the past and look at what really makes a fish open its mouth. Picture this. It is early morning. The mist is slowly rising off the water. The lake is completely silent. You have spent the last 30 minutes perfectly tying on a lure that looks exactly like a local baitfish. It has the right scales. It has the right eyes. It is a masterpiece of modern tackle engineering. You cast it out. It lands with a soft splash. You reel it in with the perfect cadence. You do this for 2 solid hours. Nothing. Not a single bite. Then, out of pure frustration, you reach into the bottom of your tackle box. You pull out a lure that looks like it belongs in an 80s disco. It is bright neon green and hot pink. It does not look like anything that lives in nature. You tie it on. You cast it out. Before you can even turn the handle of your reel, the water explodes. A massive fish smashes this ridiculous piece of plastic. You are left standing there, reeling in your prize, wondering why you just wasted hours trying to mimic nature. The truth is that perfectly natural lure was completely ignored, but the neon clown color triggered an instant, violent reaction. This happens every single day on the water, and it completely destroys the golden rule of matching the hatch. Let us talk about why that happens. We need to look at the biology of a fish. For decades, we have been told that fish are highly intelligent creatures that carefully inspect every meal. We assume they have a magnifying glass and a checklist of what a real bug or minnow looks like. But think about it. Fish do not have hands. They cannot pick up an object, turn it around, and study it. When they see something moving in their territory, they only have a split second to make a decision. Are they going to eat it, kill it, or ignore it? Hunger is only one reason a fish strikes. The other reason is pure, unadulterated aggression. When a predator fish sees a natural colored bait swimming by, it might just think it is a regular Tuesday. But when it sees a blazing, bright chartreuse object invading its space, it gets angry. It wants that thing gone. And the only way a fish can destroy something is by crushing it in its jaws. You are not trying to convince the fish that your lure is a delicious, organic snack. You are trying to pick a fight. And neon colors are the ultimate insult to a territorial predator. They scream for attention and demand a violent response. Water clarity is another huge factor that completely shatters the match the hatch myth. Most of the time, the lakes and rivers we fish are not crystal clear. They are muddy. They are stained with tannins. They look like a cup of coffee with a little too much cream. In these conditions, natural colors literally disappear. If you throw a brown or olive lure into muddy brown water, it blends right in. The fish cannot even see it until it bumps into their nose. Imagine trying to find a brown sock in a dark room. It is nearly impossible. Now imagine someone throws a glowing neon green tennis ball into that same dark room. You are going to spot it instantly. That is exactly what happens underwater. Neon colors cut through the dirt and the stain. They create a massive visual contrast that grabs the attention of any fish swimming nearby. You can have the most realistic, perfectly painted lure in the world, but if the fish cannot see it, they cannot eat it. Bright, unnatural colors ensure that your bait is always visible, even in the absolute worst water conditions. You are giving the fish a target they cannot possibly miss. Let us dive deeper into the concept of contrast. Contrast is the real secret weapon of professional fishermen. When you look at the underwater environment, it is mostly muted tones. You have green weeds, you have brown rocks, you have gray mud and dark blue shadows. If you want to stand out, you have to do the exact opposite of what nature is doing. A bright pink lure swimming over a bed of dark green weeds creates a visual shockwave. It is so out of place that it forces the fish to focus on it. They cannot look away. It is like seeing a bright red sports car driving down a gray highway on a rainy day. It catches your eye immediately. The match the hatch philosophy tells you to blend in. It tells you to be stealthy. But sometimes being stealthy just means being ignored. By using neon colors, you are actively choosing to break the camouflage. You are announcing your presence to every fish in the area. This is especially true when fishing deep water, where light penetration is very low. Down in the depths, colors start to fade, but neon and chartreuse hold their visibility much longer than natural silvers and browns, making them the absolute best choice for deep water structure. So where did this obsession with matching the hatch actually come from? It mostly started with traditional fly fishing. Hundreds of years ago, guys standing in crystal clear, shallow chalk streams in England noticed that trout were very picky. If a certain type of mayfly was hatching, the trout would only eat that specific bug. In that one highly specific scenario, matching the hatch made perfect sense. But over the decades, the fishing industry took that very specific rule and applied it to every type of fishing on Earth. They convinced us that bass in a muddy pond in the middle of summer act the exact same way as a brown trout in a clear spring creek. It is a complete marketing gimmick. The tackle companies want you to buy a lure in every single natural color variation. They want you to buy the light green frog, the dark green frog, the brown frog, and the black frog. But the truth is, most warm water predators are opportunistic feeders. They do not care about the precise shade of a frog belly. They care about movement, vibration, and getting a meal before it escapes. The match the hatch rule was stretched way beyond its original purpose, and it has been costing you fish for years. Let us be completely honest about something. A lot of the lures on the market today are not designed to catch fish. They are designed to catch fishermen. When you walk into a tackle shop, you see aisles and aisles of incredibly realistic baits. They have photorealistic paint jobs. They have tiny little fins. They even have three-dimensional eyes. When you look at them, you think, wow, that looks exactly like a real bluegill. I have to buy that. But you are looking at it through the eyes of a human being in perfect lighting conditions. The fish does not see it that way. The fish is looking at it through a layer of murky water, usually from below, while the lure is moving quickly. All those beautiful natural details completely blur together. The fish does not care if your crankbait has realistically painted scales. It only sees a shape, a color flash, and a vibration. When you use a bright, unnatural neon bait, you are stripping away all the useless details and focusing only on what triggers a strike. You are stopping the cycle of buying lures just because they look pretty to you. You are finally fishing for the fish, not for your own ego. Let us take a moment to talk about the absolute magic of the color hot pink. For some reason, old-school fishermen hate the color pink. They think it is a joke. They think it is a color for kids. But if you talk to guys who fish in freezing cold water, or guys who chase aggressive salmon and trout, they will tell you that pink is an absolute killer. When the water temperature drops, fish get lethargic. Their metabolism slows down. They do not want to chase a natural-looking meal because it burns too much energy. But if you drift a bright pink jig right past their face, something snaps inside their brain. It is highly visible, yet it completely offends their senses. It triggers an involuntary reaction. I have seen days on the river where 5 guys throwing natural silver spoons catch absolutely 0 fish. Then, a guy walks up with a fluorescent pink spinner and pulls out a limit of huge fish in under 1 hour. Pink does not look like any natural bait fish in fresh water. It does not match any hatch, but it perfectly matches the aggressive trigger points in a predator brain. If you do not have hot pink in your tackle box, you are missing out on one of the greatest secrets in fishing. Then there is the legendary combination of chartreuse and orange, often called fire tiger. Look at a fire tiger lure. It has bright green sides, a blazing orange belly, and black tiger stripes down the back. Unless you are fishing in a nuclear reactor, there is absolutely no bait fish on Earth that looks like this. Yet fire tiger is arguably one of the most successful lure colors in the history of fishing. Why? Because it combines everything that makes unnatural colors work. The chartreuse green cuts through stained water like a laser beam. The orange belly mimics a dying or bleeding fish, even though it is way brighter than real blood. And the black stripes create a harsh, strobing contrast as the lure wobbles through the water. It is a sensory overload for any predatory fish. Whenever you are fishing in a new lake and you do not know what the fish are eating, you could waste hours trying to guess the local hatch. Or you could just tie on a fire tiger crankbait and cover water. The sheer offensive visibility of that lure will tell you very quickly if there are active fish in the area. It is the ultimate search bait, completely defying the rules of nature. We really need to understand the concept of a reaction strike. A reaction strike is when a fish bites your lure without actually thinking about it. It is an instinct. Imagine someone suddenly tosses an object at your face. You do not stop to think about what the object is, what color it is, or if it is safe. Your hand shoots up to block it or catch it instantly. Your body reacts before your brain even processes the information. Fish do the exact same thing, but they use their mouths instead of their hands. When you burn a neon-colored lure past a fish hiding in the weeds, it does not have time to analyze it. The bright color flashes in its peripheral vision. The instinct takes over. The fish lunges out and inhales the bait purely on reflex. If that same lure was a natural dull color, the flash would not be as shocking. The fish might just watch it swim by. Neon colors are the ultimate tool for forcing a reaction strike. You are not asking the fish if it is hungry. You are giving it a visual shock that forces its jaws to snap shut. This is how you catch fish on days when the bite is extremely tough and they ignore natural presentations. Now, let us talk about fishing pressure. In today's world, finding a secret, untouched fishing spot is incredibly hard. Most of the lakes and rivers we visit see heavy traffic. The fish in these waters are educated. They have seen every natural colored lure in the catalog. They have watched hundreds of perfectly matched brown jigs and silver swim baits swim past them. They learn to associate those natural, perfectly imitating lures with danger. So what happens when you throw a ridiculously bright, unnatural, neon green bait into the mix? It breaks the pattern. The fish have never seen anything like it. It does not look like the lures that have been dragging their friends out of the water all summer. It looks completely alien. And because predator fish are naturally curious, they often bite the alien object just to see what it is. On highly pressured waters, matching the hatch can actually work against you. You are just blending in with a crowd of hundreds of other fishermen doing the exact same thing. Stepping outside the box with obnoxious neon colors gives the fish something completely new to look at, and that curiosity often leads to a massive strike. Weather changes play a massive role in why unnatural colors dominate. Think about an overcast, cloudy day. The sun is blocked. The underwater world becomes dark and gray. On days like this, the natural flash of a silver or gold lure is completely dead. There is no sunlight to reflect off the bait. A natural colored lure just becomes a dark silhouette. But neon colors, especially those painted with ultraviolet reactive paint, actually seem to glow on cloudy days. They gather the limited light available and project it outwards. Fish have incredible vision, and many species can see the ultraviolet light spectrum that human eyes cannot even detect. To a fish, that neon chartreuse lure is literally glowing in the dark water like a neon sign at a roadside diner. It is an irresistible beacon. The next time you are out on the water and a heavy cloud cover rolls in, put away your natural ghost minnow colors. Tie on the brightest, most obnoxious neon bait you own. You will be amazed at how quickly the fish find your lure when everything else in the lake has turned dull and gray. Another incredible advantage of using neon and unnatural colors is the speed at which you can fish. When you are trying to match the hatch and use a highly realistic lure, you often have to fish it very slowly. You have to finesse it. You have to make it twitch and pause exactly like a dying bug or a wounded minnow. This takes a lot of time and patience. It also means you are covering very little water. But when you tie on a blazing bright neon lure, subtlety goes right out the window. You can cast that thing out and reel it in fast. Because the color is so aggressive and visible, you are relying on that reaction strike we talked about earlier. You do not need to give the fish time to inspect it. In fact, you do not want them to inspect it. You want them to chase it down and smash it. This means you can make 3 times as many casts in a day. You can cover entire banks and massive weed beds in half the time it takes the guy next to you, who is slowly dragging a natural colored worm. Speed kills, and neon colors allow you to fish at maximum speed without losing the fish's attention. Let us look at a specific scenario that happens all the time. You are fishing for big, territorial predators like pike, muskie, or large bass. These fish are the apex predators of their environment. They own a specific piece of structure, like a large submerged log or a rocky point. They sit there and wait to ambush prey. If a small, natural-colored baitfish swims by, the predator might decide it is not worth the energy to chase it. It is just a tiny snack. But what happens if you crash a giant, bright, neon, orange and yellow lure right into their living room? You are no longer offering them a snack. You are offering them an insult. You are invading their territory with something that is loud, bright, and incredibly obnoxious. Apex predators do not tolerate intruders. They will absolutely destroy a bright-colored lure just to get it out of their face. They strike out of pure dominance. This is why some of the biggest fish ever caught are taken on the most ridiculous, brightly colored lures you have ever seen. You are not appealing to their stomach. You are appealing to their bad attitude. Night fishing is another perfect example of why the match the hatch rule completely falls apart. When the sun goes down, the entire visual dynamic of the lake changes. Fish rely heavily on their lateral lines to feel vibrations in the dark, but they still use their eyes to zero in on the target at the very last second. If you are throwing a naturally colored dark green or brown lure at night, you are making it incredibly difficult for the fish to find it. But if you throw a stark white, neon yellow, or glow-in-the-dark lure, you are providing a massive contrast against the pitch-black water. Even under the faint light of the moon, neon colors stand out like a sore thumb. I have spent many nights on the water listening to guys complain that the fish are just not biting. Meanwhile, they are throwing dark, natural patterns into absolute darkness. The moment they switch to a bright neon color, the action suddenly turns on. You have to help the fish find your hook. In the dark, natural camouflage is your worst enemy, and unnatural neon contrast is your absolute best friend. Let me tell you about an old-timer I met on the river a few years ago. He was the classic, stubborn fisherman. He had a faded hat, an old fiberglass rod, and a bucket full of live, natural bait. He was fishing a beautiful deep hole, trying to catch walleye. He had been there since dawn, meticulously hooking real minnows and bouncing them on the bottom. He caught exactly one small fish in 4 hours. I waded in about 50 yards down from him. I tied on a bright pink and chartreuse plastic grub. It looked like a piece of radioactive candy. Within my first 10 casts, I pulled out 3 beautiful walleyes. The old-timer just stared at me. He could not process what was happening. He was using the exact natural bait the fish feed on every single day. I was using a piece of bright neon plastic that does not exist in nature. But that is the whole point. The fish in that deep stained hole could not easily spot his real minnows. But my glowing neon grub was practically screaming for their attention. That day proved to me, once and for all, that stubborn tradition will always lose to visibility and contrast. Now, is there ever a time when you actually should try to match the hatch? To be fair, yes, there are exceptions. If you are fishing in water that is as clear as a swimming pool, and the sun is shining bright with absolutely zero wind, fish can get very spooky. In those super clear, high visibility situations, a blazing neon lure might actually scare them away. It might be a little too aggressive. In that one specific scenario, toning it down and using natural, ghost-like colors can be the right move. But ask yourself, how often are you truly fishing in perfect, crystal clear, glass-like conditions? For most of us, the answer is almost never. We fish in wind, we fish in stained water, we fish in current and heavy cover. The mistake is taking the rules meant for perfectly clear water and applying them to everyday, messy fishing conditions. You have to adapt to the water you are standing in, not the water you wish you were standing in. And in the vast majority of everyday fishing scenarios, a bright, unnatural color will outfish a natural, perfectly matched bait every single time. We also need to talk about how a fisheye is physically built. Fish do not see colors exactly the way we do. Humans have eyes adapted to seeing clearly in the air. Fish have eyes adapted to seeing through a dense liquid that filters out light. As you go deeper in the water column, colors like red and orange are the first to disappear. They turn to shades of gray and black. But colors like chartreuse, bright green, and hot pink hold their true color much deeper. This means that a lure that looks wildly unnatural to you on the surface actually maintains its strong visibility down in the strike zone. Furthermore, many baitfish have scales that naturally reflect ultraviolet light. When you use a neon lure with ultraviolet properties, you are not actually doing something completely unnatural. You are just amplifying the natural flash of a baitfish to extreme levels. You are giving the fish a supercharged version of what they are already looking for. It is like turning up the volume on a radio so everyone in the room can hear the song. You are just making it impossible to ignore. Even in the sacred, traditional world of fly fishing, the match-the-hatch mentality is slowly being destroyed. Fly fishermen are famous for spending hours identifying tiny bugs and tying flies that mimic them perfectly. But a quiet revolution has been happening. Some of the best fly fishermen in the world are now using massive, brightly colored neon streamers. They are throwing huge chartreuse and pink flies that look like angry tropical birds. And guess what? They are catching some of the biggest, most aggressive brown trout on the planet. The purists hate it. They say it is not real fly fishing. But the fish do not care about tradition. A massive brown trout does not want to waste energy sipping tiny brown bugs off the surface when it can crush a giant, glowing neon streamer swimming past its face. The guys using neon streamers are breaking all the rules, and they are posing for pictures with monster fish, while the guys trying to match the hatch are still squinting at tiny bugs on the water. It just goes to show that aggression and visibility work on almost every species. Let us not underestimate the power of confidence. In fishing, confidence is absolutely everything. If you tie on a perfectly natural-looking lure, but you are second-guessing if it is the exact right shade of brown, you are going to fish it poorly. You will lose focus. You will stop paying attention to your retrieve. But when you tie on a blazing bright neon lure, you know exactly what you are doing. You know you are fishing for a reaction strike. You know the fish can see it. That confidence changes the way you hold your rod. It changes the way you impart action to the bait. You fish faster, harder, and with more purpose. The fish can feel that energy. They respond to a lure that is moving with erratic, aggressive confidence. When you stop worrying about matching a microscopic hatch and start focusing on triggering aggressive strikes with bold colors, fishing becomes a lot more fun. You stop overthinking. You stop playing a guessing game with Mother Nature. You just put a highly visible target in the water and dare the fish to come and take it. So how do you start making this shift without throwing away everything you own? You do not need to burn all your natural colored lures. They have their time and place in super clear water. But you need to change your mindset. The next time you walk into a tackle shop, walk right past the aisle with the perfectly painted, ultra-realistic baits. Go to the section with the obnoxious, glowing neon colors. Buy a fire tiger crankbait. Buy a hot pink jig. Buy a chartreuse spinnerbait. The next time you are on the water and the bite is tough, do not switch to a smaller, more natural bait. Do the exact opposite. Tie on the most unnatural, bright thing in your box. Throw it out there and burn it back. Shock the fish. Anger the fish. Force them to react. Once you feel that violent, aggressive strike from a fish that completely ignored your natural baits all morning, your entire philosophy will change. You will realize that fishing is not always about perfectly imitating nature. Sometimes it is just about making a scene, picking a fight, and reeling in the winner. So, let us wrap this up. The biggest plot twist in fishing is not that fish are too smart for your lures. It is that fish do not always want a perfectly cooked, organic meal. Sometimes they just want a bar fight. By constantly trying to match the hatch, you are blending into the background. You are making your bait invisible in stained water. You are ignoring the predatory instincts and pure aggression that drive big fish to attack. When you switch to unnatural neon colors like hot pink, fire tiger, and chartreuse, you stop blending in and start demanding attention. You force reaction strikes, you fish faster, and you beat the heavy pressure of modern lakes. This changes your entire approach to fishing. It saves you money on buying 1,000 realistic patterns, and it puts more fish in the boat. Thank you so much for watching. If this video gave you a new perspective, please hit that subscribe button right now. Leave a like to help the channel grow, and I want to hear from you in the comments. What is the most ridiculous, unnatural lure color that has caught you a massive fish? Let us talk about it down below, and I will see you on the next one.